Hi, and welcome to Main Street AI, the podcast where traditional businesses are quietly revolutionizing their operations with artificial intelligence and winning. In this podcast, I sit down with industry leaders from law firms and professional services and other Main Street businesses to explore their AI journey. We dive into the opportunities they see, the challenges they're navigating, and the real impact of AI on their industries. Whether you're AI curious or ready to implement, this show brings you insights from leaders who are actually using this technology to serve customers better, empower employees, and drive profitable growth. She left Jamaica, moved to Winnipeg in the dead of winter, rebuilt her legal career from scratch in a new country, then started her own law firm. Colleen Coleman Wright of Coleman-Lex Professional Corporation in Toronto didn't take the easy path, and that background turned out to be exactly the foundation her clients need. In this episode, Colleen talks about what makes her boutique practice genuinely unique. Two internationally trained immigrant lawyers offering corporate commercial expertise at small firm prices, with a one-stop shop model that takes business immigrants from entity setup all the way through Canadian immigration. She also gets refreshingly candid about AI, the creativity she brings to the law, and why she sees legal drafting less like paperwork and more like play putty. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome back to the Main Street AI podcast. This is Stephen Whittier with Satori Coach IO, and today I'm joined by Colleen Coleman Wright of the Coleman-Lex Professional Corporation. Colleen, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Stephen, for having me. Hi. My name is Colleen Coleman Wright. As you said, I'm the founder of Coleman-Lex Professional Corporation. It is a boutique law practice. We're based in downtown Toronto. Currently, we're just two very unique professionals, lawyers who are also immigrants. So we recently came to Canada. In our practice, we predominantly focus on business law and business immigration. We both have previous experience. We're internationally trained. I am previously trained in Jamaica, where I am still a practicing attorney. I predominantly do consultation work, and my background is corporate commercial law. So of course, coming back to when I came to Canada as an immigrant, I had to redo my licensing exams, and I decided to start my own practice. So we've been operating for 5 years, and it's going pretty well.
Great. What brought you from Jamaica?
It's a very long story. The short, I think the abridged version is life changes. So the short version is I've always loved Canada. I do have family here. I used to visit prior to migrating to Canada. Always wanted to migrate ever since I left high school, in fact. But I was married then. My partner wasn't quite keen on migrating, so that was delayed until like what happens in most marriages. It didn't work out, and I got to redo my life, and I decided that I'm going to take that chance and restart my life in the country that I've always wanted to migrate to. So that's the abridged version. I actually left Jamaica, went to Winnipeg first because that's where my family is. And that was a shock. Every time I say that to people, they're like, why, what would drive you to leave Jamaica and go straight to Winnipeg? But that's where my family was. Spent 5 years there, and then I came to Toronto 5 years after.
Yeah. And now you have your own firm. That's a great entrepreneurial story right there. Love it.
It is.
One question I always like to ask. So for people that aren't in your field and they're not legal professionals, what would you say are things that maybe people outside the field underestimate or don't understand about what you do? Like things you'd like for them to know before they actually have a need to come find you?
I think people underestimate the amount of, problem solving skills that we as lawyers have to employ, right? Our job is essentially to solve people's problem, most times when they're in crisis. And you have to not just deal with the legal issues and the legal challenges and navigate in the legal space, but you're dealing with people at their most vulnerable emotionally, especially certain fields of practice, for example, family law, criminal, which are the two areas of law that I refuse to practice and no one could pay me enough money to do. But even in the business space, right, they're coming to you, it's a transaction is going bad or has gone bad. They're in some disputes with another party, etc. And you have to navigate the legal issues, the legal framework, and personal issues. So I guess you're being somewhat of a therapist, you're being this problem solver, and then the analytical skills. And I think people underestimate it. They think we just read and regurgitate the law, and that is what we do.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of consultative capacity to what you do as well. Right? One thing I've heard too come up a few times is when it comes to, again, contract disputes and business law, that a lot of times one of the cautions to business owners, entrepreneurs is not to just take the contract, have it drafted, and then put it away in a desk and just forget about it. What's the advice you typically give around that to make sure that people are actually keeping those agreements fresh in mind and complying with them?
Very much so. Yes, that is a tendency of business owners to put it and forget it. But that doesn't work. You do need to update your terms and conditions and provisions depending on as your business operation grows and moves. You also need to know what's in it, because what we do have is we've prepared it. We've told them where to sign, they've signed it and they've shelved it. An issue arises and they're trying to deal with it outside of the remit of the contract, not knowing that there are solutions in the contract. There are provisions for situations such as these, but they wouldn't know if they have not looked at it or, become familiar with it. So that's not something you do. And of course, as you said, you do have to keep your contracts updated as your company grows, as your business grows, and as things shift and change. A case in point is what's happening now in the global or political space, right? With right next door our international trade agreement, etc. Persons cannot be sitting on their previous contracts with their, for example, service providers across the border. They need to have those contracts. They need to have been reviewing it, going through provisions, and excuse me, and making the necessary tweaks and adjustments as the global economic and political climate changes.
Great point. I'll pivot over now to ask you about AI, our main thrust here with how everybody's engaging with this. What sort of trends are you seeing in the industry, and or how are you thinking about and using it in your practice?
I guess I'm seeing a twofold trend. There are those colleagues amongst around that are heavily embracing AI. So much so it's a bit ridiculous. I'm sure perhaps you've seen some of the things in the media where persons have regurgitated what AI has produced and submitted it to the courts. Can you imagine, with all the fabricated case laws and provisions? So that's the extreme where some of my colleagues, and they're all my colleagues, are taking it. Then there's the other spectrum. I do sit on the bar, several of the sections of the Bar Association. There are other colleagues who are more mature, who are not touching it with a long foot pole. They're not going there. They're not going to try, and it's understandable, right? It's technology. I particularly fall, I guess, in the middle, where I initially was a bit skeptical. I was like, no, and I'm from the old school. So Jamaica, we do operate under the UK type of system where we do everything kind of old fashioned and old school and traditional. So it was a wake up call when I got to North America and see how much technology is infused in the profession. That was eye opening. And initially, I wouldn't say refused, but it took me a while to wrap my head around not drafting a contract from scratch. That's how I was trained, and I can still do it. Why am I putting stuff into a software and it spits out a draft contract to me? That was crazy. But I've welcomed it, and I think I've come around to the point where it does serve a purpose. But it cannot stand alone. It needs to be checked. It needs to be reviewed, as perhaps you would a law clerk, right? You give a law clerk an assignment, it produces something. Your responsibility is to review that, to check to make sure that the product is accurate and what is required. You owe it to your client as well, right? And your profession.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's been some speculation, conversations we've had just on this podcast about some of those egregious cases you mentioned with people just submitting something from ChatGPT directly to the court and not accounting for review or hallucinations or anything like that. I guess the jury's kind of been out, no pun intended, on is that professional laziness, or is that simply maybe a reflection of being overburdened to the point where you're just trying to get whatever
out in time to be able to handle your caseload. So I'm not exactly sure. We can't read their minds, right? But clearly there's some misunderstanding there about the level of rigor that would go into properly creating parameters and training an AI to do that job in the right way, as opposed to just going to a publicly available LLM and asking it to spit something out for you.
And you're right. Both thoughts are, I think, are valid, but I think it's more of the former. It's a bit of laziness because if you like, I've used it, I've tried it, but if you reread some of these things that it initially spits out, just common knowledge, basic common legal thing, you will spot certain, like you're like you might not be sure whether or not the thing is accurate, but you might spot something that says, okay, that doesn't look right, and then you fact check it or do whatever you need to do. So I think it's a bit of laziness as well. I also do appreciate as a small practice myself, the burden, as you say, that comes with, running a practice, or if you're in a small um, establishment or setup and you've got this demand from the clients. Here you are with limited resources because you're not on the, I point this way because I'm downtown and Bay Street is literally here. So you're not on Bay Street where you've got, a plethora of resources to use. So you're using what you can, trying to produce as quickly as possible to give to the client. I get that, but you do still have a sense of responsibility, your professional integrity to balance the two. So,
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. That's still, attorneys still have to do their attorney job, right?
you do.
What are you most excited about for where the technology is going in terms of this rapid acceleration and the capabilities?
I haven't slowly embraced it myself, as I said. I am excited about what it can do for our back end office. That because that's how I have approached it in Indeed. It has the ability to free up a lot of time that we would otherwise use doing administrative stuff or I'll give you an example, like as a small outfit, marketing is something that I'm needing to do more. I've been told over and over, and I was stuck in my ways. I was doing the old-fashioned way of generating new business, and there's so much out there now where you could use AI to assist you in this endeavor, right? With what do you call it, posting stuff, creating content, etc., etc. That is something that you ought not to be using your valuable time as a lawyer to do when there's AI to do that. So I'm excited to see how it could cause small outfits such as mine to become more efficient and dare say perhaps competitive enough with the other medium-sized firms.
Right.
That excites me because what we lack in manpower, actual lawyers, etc., we could get AI to help us be that much more efficient and potentially be a bit competitive in the market and focus our time solely on law and not these other back office stuff.
Absolutely. No, you're spot on. Really, the sweet spot right now with it, especially in professional services for the most part, is the efficiency. It really is. If we were having this conversation 5 years from now, what do you think in your field would look the same as today, and what might look radically different based on all this technology?
That's a very good question. Let me consult my crystal ball. I think, if I dare say, I think there would be a consistent growth into legal research and legal draft in the initial draft because there's a lot of advancement going on in the legal research, legal resource space. So the LexisNexis, the Westlaw, where I think I checked something the other day, and normally you go in and there are static precedents, right? You go in, their templates are static, you take it, you customize it at that point for your client. But now with the AI, you can actually have an interactive experience with these legal research or legal tools, and they're now able, I think, I'm still questioning it, and I'm a bit of a snob as it relates to drafting because I'm biased that way. I like to draft my own, but they are now able to produce pretty decent first draft that are customized and interactive based on what you've put in, as opposed to this static draft that you have to spend hours on trying to customize it for your particular transaction. I think in 5 years' time, that will be, they will, dare say, perfect it, or it will be much more efficient Again, allowing you to start a transaction or push certain things through a transaction quite quickly. I fear that it will also embolden the public to think that they don't need a lawyer because
Yes.
they can use these AI tools and do it as good as we can. And I think that would be a very, I don't want to say ignorant, but that would be a misguided perception in 5 years' time. Because whilst AI will be able to take out that rudimentary aspect of what we do, people will forget what our core thing is, which is that analytical skills of being able to take the law, or at least what I do. I'm assuming my colleagues do it. But my thing is you take the law is there, and you have a particular problem, and we're able to take that and I guess twist, turn, and fit it into what you need to find a solution. I can't see AI getting to that level. I'm sorry, no artificial intelligence can do what I do. Maybe that's an ego thing, but no artificial intelligence can do what I do.
No, I think that's come up with one of my earlier interviews when we started. There was a kind of like a more production law, which would be something that you'd have like a very junior associate do that's just sort of mechanical, like that might get replaced, but then
Yes.
going up the chain to the different tiers,
Mhm.
he was talking about like wise lawyer level. That's the creative, highly nuanced area.
Exactly.
You know, we're nowhere near there right now. So I think you're absolutely right. Um, I'll turn over to dig a little bit deeper into your business. As it stands right now, what would you say that you do or your firm does extraordinarily well that maybe sets you apart from others that might even be in your same area of specialty?
A few things I think. The first is the background of the two lawyers that compose the firm. So we're both immigrants, and I mean newcomers, as I say. We're both internationally trained. My colleague is internationally trained in India. He's still licensed to practice in India. I'm still licensed to practice in Jamaica. I've been practicing there 15 years, 5 years in Canada. And with that international training, we bring to the table, of course, an international perspective, an international view, having dealt with matters across, not in Canada, but outside of Canada. And in my case, I used to do matters across the Caribbean, the English speaking Caribbean. So we bring that external knowledge, which I think is useful because we've had matters where it's having had that knowledge or that experience in our previous lives in our previous jurisdiction that we were able to spot something that perhaps our colleague who only operates in one jurisdiction would not be able to spot. The other thing is, of course, again, we're in a space where global trade, geopolitics, all of these things, nothing is done in silos, right? You can't live in a silo. So those of my colleagues, as brilliant as they are, who only operate, I mean, the same area of law, let's use business law as an example, but you only operate in this jurisdiction. The disadvantage I see on them is something is presented to you, and unless you've had that knowledge or that experience, you're not able to quickly spot that this could potentially be an issue that is outside the jurisdiction, or, yeah, that's outside the jurisdiction, and then perhaps know that you need to consult, somebody else. The second thing that sets us apart is we do business law, which is, I use the term business law because when I got here, I realized that when I say corporate commercial, people look at me almost like, no, you don't work on Bay Street, because there's this, I understand I might be mistaken, but the connotation is if you're corporate commercial, you should be in one of the medium-sized big firms. Anything else, you're just doing business law. Doesn't matter what the title is. I'm a trained corporate commercial lawyer. So that's the other thing that we are able to do. We're able to bring to our business clients, professionals, entrepreneurs, the skill set and the expertise of a trained corporate commercial lawyer, but at the price rate of a small firm or a solo firm. We're able to give you the same quality of work. Yes, we are not able to do volumes and massive transactions, but we're able to give our small business owners that level of expertise and skill set that they would otherwise have to go on Bay Street for or couldn't pay for at all because of where they're at. And the last thing is we also do what we call, business immigration. And right now we focus on professionals, business owners who are trying to transition into the Canadian market and vice versa if you're coming out, but depending on the jurisdiction you're going. And we're able to offer them this thing, a one-stop shop. That is the most unique feature I believe we bring to the table. So what normally happens, as most people would know, in Toronto and in the GTA space, there's a lot of everybody's niched and specialized. You just have an immigration practice here, you've got a business law practice, etc. Whilst here at our firm, we can offer somebody wants to come to Canada, I mean, I have those clients. The first conversation they're having with me is we are able to bring you from the inception. We set your organization up, and we transition you into the immigration aspect of it, do all the immigration paperwork, and help you to get settled and integrated into a new market with as little and as easy as possible. We also, of course, coordinate with other professionals, CPAs, etc. What I found in doing this, offering this services, other business immigrants who had done it previously have complained that they have to deal with a business lawyer, separate firm, separate sets of people, an immigration lawyer, separate person, separate sets of things. It's not easy to navigate that space as a newcomer. Perhaps the language is also an issue, and just the optics and the operational nightmare, logistic nightmare of trying to come into a new market. So that is what we offer people. We do everything a one-stop shop. Yeah, that's what set me apart.
That's a tremendous advantage right there. Yeah. In terms of growth, now you're 5 years in Canada, boutique firm. What stage of growth would you say you're in right now, and where are you looking to get to in, say, the next 12 months?
I would want to believe that we're out of the startup phase and we're at that. I guess it's more than a launch. We're outside the startup phase, and we're ready to ramp up and to ramp up, so much so that, as I said, for the first time I've been having, and I'm about to embark on serious marketing initiatives. So that's where I want to be in 12 months, is that my marketing team and I have discussed how we would like to have, more leads, more traffic coming into the firm. We have actually decided to start a few areas that we don't normally do, like business succession planning again, because most of my business clients helped them to set their business operations, have that done, whether they're newcomers or not. When you ask them about, okay, well, what's the exit plan? How do you plan to exit this business? They don't have a clue. They thought they were going to work until they die, or perhaps their children will take it over. But most of them, their children is doing something else. So we're starting to have conversation about these business succession planning, and these discussions and these plans needs to happen not when you plan, not at the moment you plan to retire, but previous, right? So we're planning, we're strategizing and restructuring some companies with the view of exiting. And I'm hoping to build that side of the practice. So in 12 months' time, I'm hoping to add that business succession planning aspect as another mainstream service area for our firm.
Right. Just a couple things to follow up on that. Do you have a growth target for, say, the next year in terms of how much you'd like to be able to grow? Or is that still more just defined by what you want to be adding for capabilities?
I don't think I don't have it in, like, I can't give you a percentage or anything like that. I mean, definitely we want to be doing way better than what we're doing now. But no, as I said, the talks are still early with my marketing team. So I just want to be doing exponentially more than what I'm doing now. Subject, of course, to our ability, because and that's my personal fear, which is, I think, somewhat has held me back, is I do not want to grow too fast to the point where my work product suffers, because again, it's the ego thing. Most of the practice has been grown so far by word of mouth, and I am exceptional at what I do. We're exceptional at what we do, and it's clients telling another client about what we do. We've never marketed or anything like that, and it's because of the quality work that we do, and I need that to still be the hallmark of the brand, that we provide quality service. So if I'm unable to provide quality service because the tap has been turned on too much, that's my personal anxiety. That's not, I need to figure out how to deal with that, but that's my personal anxiety or fear.
Right. Well, again, that's where some of the efficiency comes in, right? So,
which is right. Yeah.
Exactly. I always like to ask a question around, this is basically informed by theory of constraints. So it's magic wand question. If you could wave a hypothetical magic wand and fix one thing in the business right now that might be limiting you or holding you back, what would you say that is?
I think it would be the same for all business and capital. I think, yeah, capital, because if I do get more of that, I mean, it's a small firm, it's bootstrapped by myself. If I get that, then I am able to curate the team that I need. So I'm very good at training people. And again, I'm very particular. That's part of my problem. I'm very particular. I know what I want. I know how I want things to be done. So if I've got capital, that's my current constraint. Then I could get the team, curate the team that I want, and position them in a way that I can then grow the practice because I've seen different theory. Again, I'm a lawyer, I'm not a market person or, these people, but perhaps my approach is incorrect because I'm thinking I need to have the team in place, properly trained team for them before we open the floodgates. I've seen people tell me that's not how you do it. You open the gates and you'll figure it out. That sounds like chaos and madness to me. And yeah, that would give me anxiety. I couldn't do that. Again, I'm a lawyer, I'm not a marketing person. So
Right, exactly. Staying in your lane.
I'm staying in my lane.
Excellent. Well, it's all great stuff. And I always like to follow up from all the talk about the business, professional goals, thinking about how the tech can or can't help you get there, all these different topics, and then bring it back to the personal. So, from a personal level, what would you say, minus again your business metrics, what really gets you excited to get up every day and do what you do? What's your personal why?
Love what I do. I'm a law nerd. It's still work and it sounds kind of, oh, she doesn't have a life, but I'm a law nerd. Always wanted to be a lawyer, love what I do to the point where I migrated to a new country and did it all over again. And I just love fixing people's legal problem. And more than that, I like being creative. So it excites me when somebody looks at even a contract or somebody looks at a transaction and go, okay, we're going to do this, this, this. And I go, no, we could do this, this, and that. And they're like, oh, nobody's ever done that before. I'm like, yeah, somebody's about to do it that way. Being creative with the law. I see the law as a putty, like it's my little play putty, and I like to twist it and turn it and mold it into what me or my client need. And that gets me out of bed, just having the opportunity to do that, to mold the law and legal stuff into new things and creative things.
Yeah, that's really cool. Very, it's an organic, or it's an organism, right? Constantly
It is.
evolving.
It
Uh,
is constantly evolving, and you can do with it that which you please.
Very, very, very interesting. Very cool. I appreciate it. So, for anybody that's looking for your services, what's the best way to contact you, Colleen?
That's a good question. Well, we are where there's a website. Our telephone number is 647-696-0880, or you can shoot me an email at colleen@coleman-lex.ca. We're also on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think those are where we are at. I think we're working on those whole social media channel stuff, which again, that's my downfall, but we're getting there.
I'll put your website in the description as well. No worries.
Yeah.
So, very great having you on. Really appreciate all your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. Take care.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Take care.